Hello everyone. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about sustainable design, and specifically I'm going to talk about LEED and the different certifications that you can have under the LEED standards. Building have a major impact on environment. For example, 39% of the total energy that we use in the world is related to buildings, either by through constructing new buildings or through using the buildings. 30% of the greenhouse gases that we emit are because of buildings, again, either through construction or using the buildings. 30% of the raw materials that we use goes into the buildings. 30% of the waste that we generate or produce are because of buildings. And 12% of the potable water consumptions are because of buildings. So you can see that buildings has major impact on the environment. And if we can use some design strategy to reduce any of these numbers, we can have a contribution in reducing our impact on the environment, because at the end of the day, you are designer and you will make decision about lots of things in building construction. This is a really important diagram. In this diagram, you can see the population of the world and the population of each country in relationship to the overall population in the world. So, for example, China has 18% of the world population. India has 17% of the world population, and 5% of the world population are living in United States. And if you compare this with another diagram, which is in here, you will notice a surprising point. On the right, you can see the energy consumption of different countries. For example, 23% of the energy that is consumed in the world is being consumed by China, and 17% of the energy that is used in the world is used by United States. And if you compare that with what we saw on here, you can see that this 17% is being used by only 5% of the world population. So what does it mean? It means that Americans using energy because they have, for example, more number of cars, because they have more number of TVs, washer, dryers, and all the appliances or the lifestyle in general. So essentially, Americans are enjoying a higher standard of living compared to the other people in the world. So if everyone in the world wants to enjoy the same level of living standard that Americans are enjoying right now, we need to have at least 4 to 5 Earths to sustain us, to provide resources, energy, and all things like that. And it's physically impossible, right? It's not sustainable. So that's why people talk about sustainable development a lot. Of course, we can implement really complex strategies in order to address this issue. However, there are some easy adjustments in the way that we are designing that can have huge impact. For example, imagine that every house in the United States change 5 light bulb that use high level of energy and substitute that with LED lighting. They can save up to $8 billion per year, and the amount of greenhouse gases that we will reduce by using this simple strategy will be equal to 10 million cars. So you can see that a simple strategy can have huge impact. And you are the person who will specify lighting fixtures, right? So this is the power that you have as an interior designer. So let's look at the energy consumption in homes by end users. There are 5 major categories. The first one is space heating. Is there any way that you can reduce the energy that is used in this category in residential design? For example, last semester we talked about orienting your building or your house towards south. And by using this strategy, you can rely on solar energy in order to reduce reliance on fossil fuel consumption, right? So you can see that using passive strategies can help to reduce this the amount of energy that we use under this category. The second one is appliances, electronics, and lighting. As we said, you can easily specify LED lighting and reduce the amount of energy consumption under this category. And or for example, you can specify appliances that has sustainable certifications, like for example, Energy Star, in order to reduce the energy consumption under this category. For water heating, again, you can rely on solar energy, and we are in Las Vegas, we have lots of solar energy, and we can use that to preheat our water. So we do not necessarily need to completely heat the water. We can at least preheat the water, right? And have a contribution. For air conditioning, we can rely on passive strategies like, for example, natural ventilation. And these are really easy strategy. Of course, we can have more complicated strategies that have more impact in reducing fossil fuel consumption as well. So most of the time when people talk about sustainability, they talk about the environmental impact of different processes or products. But in fact, there are three different pillars that we need to consider in order to have a sustainable development. And these pillars are environmental, social, and economic. And if you neglect one of these pillars when you are developing, you cannot have a sustainable development. So let me provide two examples of such situation where they focus only on one pillar and neglected the other pillars. For example, in China, the economical growth that they experienced was phenomenal, right? But they completely forget about environmental pillar. So we have lots of pollution in air and water, and hence their cities are not really healthy to live in. And you can imagine that raising a child wouldn't be a really good option in this case. And your health and people's health will be at a significant danger, right? This is a good example of how focusing only on one pillar and forgetting about the other pillars can be not sustainable or unsustainable. The second example is about endangered animals in Kenya. So they wanted to save these endangered animals. So they started developing policies and enforce the policies. And it was in fact successful. So the endangered animals, the number of them increased. And as the number of wild animals increased, they started attacking farms and hence they destroyed crops. So in fact, local people suffered a lot. In this case, they focus on environmental pillar without focusing on the social pillar. So sustainable development is a broad concept and you need to focus on all the three factors. That's why in most of the sustainability certifications, you will see something that is about social aspects or community. There is something that is about economical aspects and so on and so forth. So, before I move on, what is the definition of sustainability? Sustainability focuses on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So, it doesn't mean that we need to stop developing, right? The development of our country. No, we need to use energy and develop our country, but we need to consider other factors. And you already know about systemic thinking. So we need to consider that factor in mind and see what other factors will contribute to the environment or society or economic. I want you to pay attention to the difference between green design and sustainability. As we said, sustainability is a broad concept, and green design is only one of those. In green design, you focus only on environmental factor or environmental pillar. So whenever you are designing a sustainable project, most of the time the initial cost might increase because of the strategies that you're using. So it's important for you as a designer to be able to make a case or make a good argument for your client to justify why they need to pay that extra money, right? So it's your responsibility to make at least two cases. The first case is environmental impact. You need to talk about how implementing any of the strategies that you are suggesting can reduce the environmental impact. The second one is a business case, right? Most of the time when you're designing for a business, they are interested in the amount of money that they can save or they can increase their profit, right? And so you need to make a business case. For example, there is a study that examined if having a sustainability plaque on a restaurant building has any impact on the number of people who will eat in that restaurant. And in fact, they found that it has an impact. It can increase the number of people who eat at that specific restaurant who has a sustainability plaque on their building, right? Especially if the price is not really that higher than any restaurant that doesn't have that kind of sustainability plaque. And by the way, this study was conducted in Los Angeles, and culture will have a huge impact in that. But whenever you are making a case for your client, you need to consider both these factors. Talk about environmental impact as well as talking how you can um, increase revenue or reduce the cost or something like that. So let's say that you have a sustainable project, you design a sustainable project. How can I measure your success? How can I compare your building with another designer's building, right? So we need to have a measure to compare to make this comparison. Fortunately, we have multiple certifications that can help us to measure your success level in terms of implementing sustainable strategies. And the most important one is LEED. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And this certification is developed by USGBC, which stands for US Green Building Council. They provide certifications for both buildings and certification for designers or professionals. And I will talk about both these and all the categories that exist under any of them. Let's first talk about certifications for buildings. They offer four different levels of certification, and it starts with LEED certified. The next one is LEED silver. Then we have LEED gold, and the best one is LEED platinum. There is a rubric or a scorecard, and based on the scorecard, you will receive a point. And if the total point is somewhere between 40 to 49, you will receive LEED certified plaque. If it's between 50 to 59 points, you will receive silver. If your points is between 60 to 79, you will get gold plaque. And if it's 80 or more, you will receive platinum. LEED publish 5 different guidebooks or reference guideline, and in any of them, they will describe every single strategies that you can implement to receive a credit. Here are the different credit categories, and I said we have 5 different types. I will talk about them in a moment, and you may see all or some of these categories in any of those 5 books. I will talk about that in a moment. But generally speaking, we have integrative process. It's about the design team composition and the process that they are using, whether or not they are relying on having people with different specialties or not. Most of the time, in order to receive credit, they need to hire or have at least a person who is LEED certified on their design team. Some of the strategies are at urban scale, or mostly are at urban scale. For example, location and transportation. Providing the public transportation is beyond the scope of interior design, but if you're designing something from scratch, you can make decision about the location or pick a land or a lot that can help you to get some credit under this. Sustainable site, again, it's about mostly about architects because they will make decision about these things, not necessarily interior designers. Water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, material and resources, indoor environmental quality. All these four, there are factors under them that relates directly to interior design. And your design decision can have an impact to get credit for any of these. We have innovation. They created this category in order to enable designers who can come up with new ideas that are not included in this classification or in the reference book. So they are trying to reward being innovative by designers. And we have regional priority. We will have different priorities in different regions, and this classification will help us to make sure that they will consider regional priorities in their design. So I provided the subcategories under any of these categories. I don't want to go over them in depth. I will provide you with this PowerPoint so you can go over them and educate yourself at your time, in your time. For example, for location and transportation, access to quality transit, that's one thing. Probably you cannot do anything about that for your term project because I have already provided you with the site. So whatever exists, that exists over there, right? Bicycle facilities. If you can provide bicycle facility, you will get credit. Can you do anything about that in your design? Probably yes. You can provide some bicycle facilities and help to make your building a little bit more sustainable. Reduce parking footprint or providing some facilities for green vehicles. I would like to go to, for example, water efficiency. You can focus on outdoor water use reduction, and also you can focus on indoor water use reduction. How could you do that? You can achieve that by specifying water fixtures that has less amount of water usage. For example, you can rely on certifications like, for example, WaterSense that will reduce an amount of water. So it's all about how you will specify your water fixture, for example, for bathrooms, for restrooms. Or for example, for indoor environmental quality, enhance indoor air quality strategies. You can have a contribution. You have already talked about that in your previous presentations. Low emitting materials, construction indoor air quality management plan, indoor air quality assessment, thermal comfort, interior lighting, daylighting, quality views, acoustic performance. You can see that you cover lots of these factors in your previous assignments. Now I want you to go to this website, usgbc.org. This is the website where you can find all the information about LEED certification, all the guidelines, and everything. Once you are here, go ahead and hover over LEED. You will see that we have LEED version 5. This is the most recent version of LEED. I'm not sure if you can implement that in your in a projects because it's not done yet. But LEED version 4.1 is the version that you can refer to because it's already in place for a couple of years, at least I think for 2 or 3 years. If you go over this page, you will see more information about the topic. If you scroll down, you will get to this point. It says get started with LEED version 4.1. It says select each rating system below to learn more. So we have, for example, building design and construction. If you are designing a building, it's a new construction, you need to rely on this one. If you're designing a new building and it's residential, you need to rely on this one. This one, operation and maintenance, is not really relevant to us. And cities and communities, again, is not really relevant to interior designers. But this one is specifically says interior design and construction. This is the one that I want you to use for this course. Click on that. It will take you to this part of the page. It provides more information about that. And it says when you need to use this. For example, if you're designing commercial interiors, retail, and hospitality, you need to rely on this if you're designing for interior design of these. Under resources, there are several things that you can rely on. The first one is guide. If you click on guide, it opens the guideline It's a 200-page document, and you will see more details about any of the strategies that we talked about. For example, the first one is integrative process. Can you remember? This was one of the factors. And under that, you will see that depending on the type of the project, there is a range. For example, if you're designing commercial interiors, you can get up to 2 points. If it's retail, again, it's up to 2 points, hospitality up to 2 points. Sometimes this range is different from one type building type to the other one. I will scroll down. So if you want to learn about the different strategies, this is a good resource for you. I will go back. This is rating system and so on and so forth. This is the one that I want you to look at. Click on a scorecard. If you do that, there will be an Excel file. Open the Excel file and you will actually see the actual scorecard that you need to use, that people use to evaluate their project. I will zoom in. You will see all the strategies. For example, this is location and transportation, the first one of the criteria. Or for example, this is the first criteria, integrative process. Location and transportation. So you can see that I'm using the one for interiors. It doesn't cover all the factors that I showed in the PowerPoint, because depending on the building type, the checklist might be different. And even from one to the other one, the checklist might be different. If I click on retail, it would be different from hospitality and from commercial interiors. So your focus will be on commercial interiors. So if, for example, I look at material and resources, you can see that the first one, you can also see on the other categories as well. The one that is grayed out, it says required. This is prerequisite. You need to satisfy these before you can receive any credit for that. Let's say that you did a fantastic job in optimizing energy performance. You will receive 0 points if you didn't meet any of these or all these requirements. These are prerequisites. So you will do this first. You will receive no credit for that. After fulfilling these, now you can discuss these things, right? And any of them has different scores. This goes up to 24. And for example, enhanced refrigerant management, you will get only 1 point. And of course, this is the maximum that you can get under this category. So I will let you study this to learn more about that and see how you can implement these strategies in your term project. So this is the checklist that you need to refer to. Okay, now that you have a general overview, let me talk about the rating systems in more details. We said that we have 5 different things and not necessarily all of them are really related to us. From these 5, we said that 3 of them are so relevant to us, which are building design and construction, interior design and construction, and home design and construction. If you're designing a home or multifamily mid-rise building, you need to refer to this guideline. If you're designing, for example, healthcare facility, hospitality, retail, and so on and so forth, you need to refer to this one. If you are designing the interior design of a, for example, hospitality or retail space, you need to refer to this one. These are some of the 5 of the guidelines. There are 5 of them, and these are only 4 of them. This is the most comprehensive one because it covers lots of standards. Here you can see the thickness and comparing this with only homes. Homes is just this thick, and building design and construction is much thicker. This is one page of the green reference. This is similar to what I showed you for interior guideline. It starts with the category or criteria. There are some subcategories, and it says if it applies to which kind of building type and the maximum point that you can get, right? For example, for healthcare, you can get up to 9 points. For schools, you can get up to 15 points. Why? because some of the strategies that you can implement in schools, it's impossible to use them in healthcare facilities because of the function of the building. So, next, I want to talk about the LEED professional credentials, the certification that you as designers can have. There are three tiers that they offer, and it starts with LEED Green Associate. In this certification, which is the easiest one, they focus only on general things. And you need to pass this exam and get the certification before you can move to the second tier, which is LEED AP. AP stands for Advanced Professional. And as you can see, in LEED AP, you need to pick your specialty. And the specialties correlate or is similar to what we discussed for buildings. For example, do you want to focus on building new buildings and construction? If that's the case, you need to focus on this certification. If you want to focus on interior design and construction, this is your certification. This is for operating and maintenance. This is not related to us. This is for neighborhood development. This is not related to us. And finally, if you are in residential design, probably this is the certification that you need to focus on. The third tier is LEED Fellow. So this is not a certification that you can get. It's more like something that, so essentially you need to have more than 10 years of experience in designing green buildings. And then you will be nominated and you need to submit your portfolio and your peer will evaluate your work and see if you can get this certification. So to recap, this is the general certification and you should start with this one. Once you pass that, you can go to the next one, and after 10 years, you can apply for this one. So, okay, that was it for sustainability and LEED certification. Now that you know how LEED works, it's much easier to learn about WELL certification. So the structure is so similar. You can have WELL certification for buildings as well as having certification for professionals. But how does it work and what is the main concern of WELL certification, WELL building certification? So the focus is, as the name implies, is to improve the health and well-being of people within the buildings. I provided you with this handout in which you can see the different factors that you can that is discussed in WELL, and this is based on version 1. They already developed version 2, so maybe you can refer to their websites to see a more recent version. But I think this is a 1.5 page document and it's much easier to see what this certification is about. So well building is standard. So there are lots of factors that overlaps between this certification and LEED standard. For example, air. It talks about how pollutants can have negative impact on health of a building occupant, right? So for example, in office building, what kind of air pollutants can be produced and how could we reduce them? For example, just copier machine by itself can emit lots of gases that are not really good for health, and we need to think how we can specify the type of machine, but more importantly, how we where we put that and what kind of ventilation we provide for that specific copy room in order to reduce air pollutants. And this is just one factor. What are the other factors or pollutants that we can discuss? Water consumption is a really important one, and dehydration can have lots of impact on our cognitive ability. You are designing a workplace environment, and cognitive ability can have direct impact on productivity of people and their creativity and so on and so forth. So it says that we need to provide proper filtration techniques and regular testing for water. And of course, these are just general overview. You will learn about any of these strategies in more details when you do your personal study. Through that personal study, you will provide specific examples of any of these factors. Nourishment. Our eating habits can have a huge impact on our health. For example, if we consume processed food, probably it will have negative impact on our weight our cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and things like that. So, how could we provide or make fresh food more available to the people who are working in the work environment? You already know about a lot about light and how it can impact circadian rhythm, how it can reduce depression, and also other positive impact. How could we use light and where should we use daylighting in order to help people to maintain their mood and as well as the other as and also getting all the other positive outcomes. Fitness. So there is a concept that sometimes my students do not aware of, and it's called sedentary lifestyle. So, for example, in an office space, you can see that people can spend 8 hours just sitting by their computer. Is that a healthy behavior? Probably not. How could you help them or nudge their behavior to move around more or at least choose the type of behavior that requires more activity? So, for example, if you have a staircase, can you design the stairway in a way that encourage people to take that stair instead of relying on elevator? I'm telling that because in your project you have a elevator and as well as stair, so maybe you can do something special for the stairs that promotes that encourage people to take the stairs rather than using the elevator. Comfort, of course. Most of you talked about ergonomics, how that can impact your health. So, for example, a proper chair that is designed ergonomically that and provide support for and provides lumbar support can have a significant impact on physical health of people, right? And finally, mind. There are lots of things that can impact your health and well-being. Things like, for example, crowding. We talked about crowding last semester. We need to talk about noise level, privacy. Privacy has a really important impact on mind. Control. If you have control over your environment, that can have a huge impact on your mental health and other factors that can be seen here like air quality, light, and so on and so forth. So please go ahead and read this document because you will have a quiz from this as well as you will and also you will have another quiz from the presentation that I gave on LEED. These quizzes can be seen on the syllabus, so make sure that so the questions will be from these presentation and this handout. Okay, that's all. Please let me know if you have any questions.